Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Kim here and welcome to my messy desk. Hopefully one day I'll get it cleared off, but I think I need like a month of Sundays to find the bottom of this. So what are we going to be making today? Today is our Sunday tutorial, and I was going to wait and do this one a little bit later, but my husband kept insisting that you guys would like this tutorial, and so I'm going to go with him and you can tell me what you think. And we're going back into doing some organizing in our craft rooms. Now, I have jars and jars and jars of buttons, and it's fine to have them in glass sealer jars, but I like them to look just a little bit nicer, which is why my buttons are in jars like this. And I have the tops decorated, and inside here is a styrofoam base, and that's to hold pins or hat pins or any type of decorative. I could even put brooches on here, but it just gives it a nice finish to your jar of buttons. And again, it's inspiring you when you come into your room and you've got all this goodness and everything looks pretty and organized. So today I'm going to show you how to make these tops. Now, not only are they great for doing your jars of buttons, they are great to give as a gift to a young person that's just going out on their own. You could take a jar like this, put some straight pins on top, and inside you could have some buttons, some thread, a small pair of scissors, and sort of a survival kit of pins and needles that they can use to repair things. And the reason I say that is I once had a young fellow come into my store, and he was so desperate. He was looking for buttons and looking for someone to sew the buttons on for him. And I said, well, why don't you just let me show you how to sew on a button? And he said, no, I don't have time. So I would like to pay you $20 to sew some buttons on for me. And I said, well, how many buttons are you talking about? And he said, well, at least 5. I have no summer shorts to wear because I've popped all the buttons on my summer shorts. And he was wearing long pants when he came in the store. So he quickly ran home, got his 5 pair of pants and a duvet cover, because there was a button missing on his duvet cover too. And I proceeded to sew all these buttons on for him, and he paid me $20, and it was the easiest $20 I ever made. And to me, I just felt so sad, because we should be sending our young ones out into the world where they can sew on a button. And so maybe having a jar like this where it's decorated, well, maybe not so much for the boys. Maybe for the boys it would be a little bit plainer. But you can decorate the jars and fill them with a survival kit of thread and needles and buttons and scissors and all pins, all the things that they need to hold things together. So they make great gifts. They make great shower gifts for a young bride getting married, as a little add-on to your gift, and just a great gift for even for a friend who loves buttons. You can fill a jar full of buttons and decorate the jar as well. So let's get started. So you need a sealer jar with a lid, and one that has the, you don't need the metal piece inside other than for tracing. But you want to be able to have the lid open, because that is where the styrofoam ball is going to come out of. Now, this is your standard mouth jar. So I am using a 2.5-inch styrofoam ball. And I'm not going to bore you with cutting a ball in half. You use a knife or any kind of a tool that you can cut it in half. If you're going to use a knife, you want something relatively sharp. You have to be careful. You've got to kind of ease around it as you go along. Fortunately, these styrofoam balls do have a seal line where they've put the 2 pieces together. So if you follow the line, you can pretty much cut it very nicely in half. When you cut them in half, you're going to have these little shavy bits that come off, and they get everywhere. So probably have a damp towel or damp paper towel just to wipe up after you've cut them. But even still, like I've brought them downstairs now after cutting them all, and there's still little bits that are going to fall apart onto my desk. But as you can see my desk, it really doesn't matter at this point. So yeah, you need a styrofoam ball. Now for this size, this is the standard size jar lid, and this is a 2.5 inch ball. And it doesn't have to fit through here, but that's sort of the idea that we're going with, because we will be gluing it on top. But if you have those wide mouth jars, then you would need a 3.5 or a 4 inch ball. So just check the jar that you're going to use and see if the styrofoam ball will sort of fit into the opening or sit nicely on top of the jar itself. So that's the only thing that you have to really measure as such, is to know that your styrofoam ball is going to sit nicely on top of the lid. So once you've got your styrofoam ball cut in half and ready to go, I'm going to move all this over. I just brought it here just so you could see sort of what my desk looked like. And I had brought all this stuff out because I was trying different things when I was making my sample here, and trying to come up with different ideas of what I wanted to use, and as well as alternatives for you to use if you don't have the things that I have. So the first thing you're going to need is some fabric to cover the ball. And you want anything that's got a little bit of give to it. It doesn't have to be perfect. This has got a little bit of stretch in it. So it will wrap pretty nicely. A plain broad cloth or cotton is not going to work because it's going to leave a lot of bunchy wrinkles around the edges. Whereas this stretchy fabric will give a little bit and wrap around the ball. I have this. I have like some pashmina scarves, although I'm not using one today. But there again, it has a little bit of give in the fabric, so you can stretch it and pull it as you glue it around the ball. And it's nothing fancy. It's not rocket science. You know me. I don't like to measure unless I really absolutely have to. Just going to find the end of this fabric. I kind of just go about an inch around the ball, around the outside. And it's not going to be perfect. I'm using, can you see me? No. Here I am. Okay, so I'm not using the greatest of scissors. And I'm just cutting around the ball about an inch-ish. Inch-ish? We all know inch-ish, right? Now that's got to be the ugliest cutting job I've ever done in a video. I'm just going to smooth out this little bit here because it looks kind of choppy. But it's not even perfectly round. If you're one of those people that likes to measure and do it perfect. Another thing that works really well with covering these balls is felt, wool felt. So now it's about an inch bigger than the ball diameter, and I can show it to you this way so you can get a better idea of the color there. And I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut into this fabric, not quite an inch, about 3/4 of an inch, all the way around, just clipping it all the way around. This will allow it to stretch and pull around the ball. And I'm doing it probably about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch apart. I don't know if you can see that. I'll bring it up to the camera a little bit closer so you can see. I'm just going around the whole thing. Eventually you get to the other end. And so if I just kind of stretch it out a little bit on the other side, you can sort of see my cuts all the way around. If you're a sewer, you know what I've done here. If you're not, you're just doing this for the first time, they're just little slits that I've made all the way around the fabric. And this just allows it, again, to give a little more stretch. So then I don't want to put any hot glue on the surface of the ball because you want to be able to put your pins in here. And your straight pins and your sewing pins or hat pins, whatever you've got, decorative pins. So I don't want to put any glue on here that's going to not allow the pin to go through to the surface. So anything that it gets glued down now gets glued on this side. But I will use a little bit of glue stick and just rub a little bit on the top here, because that's not going to make lumps on the ball, and you'll still be able to get your pins through it. And I'm just going to center the fabric over top of the ball as best as I can, and just kind of stretch and pull a little bit. And this is just to give it enough hold while you're gluing. Now, when you cut the styrofoam ball in half, you know, you're an adult. You know how to work with knives or cutting tools, so you are on your own. I don't have to explain that to you, how to use a knife. And the same goes with a glue gun. I'm using a hot glue gun. If you've worked with a hot glue gun before, you know we've all been burnt. And if you haven't been burnt, you'll get burnt. But you'll only get burnt once or twice, and then you'll figure it out. So I don't need to explain to you that you have to use a glue gun with caution, I hope. This should be automatic, but you know, just in case you are working with a hot glue gun. So I put a little bit of hot glue in to cover maybe about, or to pull about 2 little pieces here. And I'm just going to pull it, the little tab, into the glue, and very carefully squeeze it and hold it for a second until it adheres. And it doesn't matter what this looks like on this side. It can be as ugly can be. It can be bunchy. There could be glue blobs. It really doesn't matter, because we're not going to see this part. And then holding those two, now that they're cool enough to hold on to, I'm going to the opposite side and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to glue 2 of these little tabs down on the opposite side. And I'm gluing and pulling at the same time. So I'm just pulling that into here, and you can actually pull it past the glue, so when you're holding it down, you're not going to get burnt, hopefully. And in this case, I put more glue so I can pull 3 of these at once. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the next quarter. So you kind of do 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3, and 9 first. And again, just putting enough glue to do 2 tabs. And holding it in place. And then keeping that hold, I'm going to do the last 9 o'clock. Does that make sense to everybody? A little bit of glue and pulling this tab, and then pulling the next one. So there are just a few here and there that have to be glued down. And as you're gluing it, you may want to stretch it or pull it in one or the other direction, just to get it to lay nicely. Oopsie. Of course, it rolled up on itself here. So one pull, and then the next pull. And then going back on this side until it's completely glued all the way around. Now these jars can also be filled with bits of lace, bits of trims. Maybe you like to organize your ribbon by color. And then you can have matching lids. I've got glue all over my fingers, by the way. And just a couple more, and hopefully you're not too bored with this. And by stretching and pulling, when you turn it over on the other side, you've got a nice finished ball, and there are no lumps and bumps around because you've used a stretchier fabric. Now I have one tiny little spot where I had slit maybe a little bit too high, or I just didn't pull enough. I'm not going to be concerned with that because we will be covering up those edges as well. Now there are some bits that are sticking up that are not necessary for the project, and it causes a little bit of bulk. So what I do is I take my scissors and I just give it a bit of a haircut. It's just so you don't have the bulk on the back side on the bottom. So then it lays a little bit flatter and the ball is ready to go. So then we're not using these because to glue hot glue to metal, it will just come undone eventually. So I would rather trace one out in cardboard, and we can save this for another project because yes, I've got projects that I use these too. Some really fun ones. So we're going to trace on cardboard, and it can be any kind of cardboard. It can be corrugated cardboard box. It can be cereal box, or I'm using zipper seal box. So it could be any type of thin chipboard. It could be a heavyweight cardstock. It's entirely up to you. Whatever scraps you've got. It could be the side of a Kleenex box or a tissue box. I always say Kleenex. They should send me a couple of free boxes. But just trace around the edge of the sealer lid, and then cut it out with your scissors. Now I cut it out inside the trace line because when you're tracing on the outside. So it's going to be a tight fit unless you cut on the inside of the line. Now if you don't have a stretchy fabric, maybe your daughter has outgrown a pair of pretty funky tights or leotards or something. They're always made out of that stretchy material, and some of the kids' colors, they're so nice and bright. They would make nice covers for these button jars or lids. So now that I've cut out the cardboard, I want to make sure it fits inside my lid. Ooh, I've got several on the go here. And it just needs, I think I can make it fit. Not too bad. So I've just pushed it right inside the lid itself. And now I'm going to take hot glue, and lots of it, and I'm not going to have my fingers anywhere on the top. Now that I've pushed this cardboard all the way in, I'm going to put hot glue along the edge, all the way around. And a couple of good squirts in the center. And I'm going to take this ball and lay it on top. Now you don't want to push too much because your fingers are going to hold the cardboard in place while you're holding the ball. And so what this does is it allows the fabric and styrofoam to stick to the cardboard, and you're not trying to put it on the metal itself. And if there's some glue bits, don't worry about it. They're going to get covered. Now, a lot of you know that I have a lot of stuff. I have trims and braids and cords and beaded things and gimp and all kinds of stuff coming out of my ears. I have all kinds of stuff to use. There's never a shortage of stuff for me, but that's because I've been collecting for years, and I have different methods of collecting, which you will slowly learn as you hang out with me more and more. So I have no shortage of things to decorate this with, but I do understand that a lot of people don't, And a lot of people don't have access to the materials that I have, you know, readily available in my studio. Maybe you have to go out and buy something because you don't have things. But there are lots of alternatives, which I'm going to show you. So the first thing I want to do is, if you look at the edge of the ball here against the metal, yep, there's a little bit of glue sticking out. There's that little nick I had over here. And there's also a little space left between the ball itself and the lid. I mean, you know, you may get lucky and find the right size ball to fit, but I think this is 2.5. I don't know if 3-inch would work on here. It might overlap a little bit. I'm not sure. But regardless, we want to fill that space in because it's just a method to finish the edge of this top part of the ball. So to give you ideas, I have this cording, and it's a 3-twist cord. You can usually find lots of it at Christmas time in the dollar stores. You can find it at the thrift shops if you look around. You can find it at I'm sure you can find it at the dollar stores now in different colors, and that would of course make a nice finished edge along the top of this ball and along the top of the sealer lid. But maybe you don't have this. So you can always use some beads. You can take a string of beads and wrap that around to finish the edges. How many of you have seen those gaudy Mardi Gras beads? And when you see them, you usually see them in big bagfuls, or any kind of beads that are faceted, that don't come apart, you know, that aren't jewelry beads. They're all in one strand. And I'm sure a lot of you have said, what would I do with that? This is the perfect way. It's like using those little plastic fused pearls. And the nice thing about it is that you can cut it wherever you want, and the beads don't come off. So this is a great way to decorate. And just to make sure that you can see what I'm doing a little bit better, I brought in a set of orange ones here. So you can finish it like that at the top with beads as an alternative to the twisted cord. Maybe you have some pieces of chain that you can put around. This actually looks kind of cool, doesn't it? To finish it. And then depending on the kind of chain, you might be able to actually hook things on there and dangle from it. That's kind of a cool idea, isn't it? You may have some wool or fibers. Now, if you can do a basic crochet, you can crochet a chain, and I did this off camera because I'm not the greatest crocheter. And you can glue that around as well. And you can glue more complementary colors. I just grabbed the first thing that was there, so you can glue that around as well. If you don't crochet, phone a friend. They always have leftover bits of wool, and if you ask them really nicely, if they would make you chains, like continuous length chains, while they're watching TV one night, with their leftover scraps of wool. Be careful what you wish for, because you will get lots of them. And it's a great way to have an assortment of colors, and these can be used to go around and used as trim. They can be used as trim on your journals and on your tags and all kinds of places. Just before you cut it, I would recommend that you take some, and I don't have any Scotch tape, so I'm going to use my tape gun. And before you cut it, just take a little piece of Scotch tape and wrap wherever it is you want to cut. And you don't need much tape at all. And so you wrap wherever it is that you want to cut, and you cut down the center of it so that you have the end of that crochet piece still intact so that you can do your next project. So something like this, and then you'd have just a tiny little bit of tape left on the end of your crochet piece, and then you would glue this around your project. I think that would fit. Yep. Okay, so then you'd be able to hot glue it down to your project to cover that rough edge. Another thing you can do is manually braid 3 pieces of cord. Most of us know how to braid. If you don't know how to braid, phone a friend. Because a braided cord will look just as nice around the edge here. And it could be braided with ribbons, it could be braided with cord, or it could be braided with pieces of wool. You can also braid pieces of fabric. You can also make the little clusters. I should find something that looks nice, right? I don't have any big pieces here, but you could also take a cluster, or not a cluster, what are these called? Blank. I've gone blank. Yeah, I've totally gone blank. Anyway, you could take one of these, and we all make these. These fabric pieces, and sorry I don't have one in a color to show you. What are these called? Oh my gosh, I'm totally blank. And you can wrap that around as a nice finish too. If this was in the right color, boy, would that ruffle it. Ruffle. Fabric ruffles. So you can make these as well to go around the top edge of your jar, and you can do these by sewing machine, and you can do them by hand. There are lots of ways to trim the edge of this without breaking the bank and going out and buying a bunch of product. But having said that, you know, I do have the stuff, and so I want to use it. You can also use lace and trims, other trims, like I have this trim that could go around the edge. It's whatever you have to finish off that final little bit at the top. So having said all of that, I've got, let's see, I've got this trim I think I would like to use. This will serve 2 purposes. It'll go around here and a little bit around the edge of the top of the jar. So I'm just going to glue this down. I hope I haven't bored you with all of those different methods. Now I put a little bit of glue on to get it started on the container itself. But now I'm just putting it right on the trim. It just makes it easier to handle, and then it's less risk of getting glue further up on your project. And a little bit of quiet again. I've got some glue sticks on the table here. I hope you can see all of this, what's going on. Just putting a little bit of glue on the trim at a time, and then just easing it around the top of the lid. Okay, so now the tricky part is when you get to the end and you must cut the trim. In this case, it's not one that's going to unravel. If it was one that I was going to unravel, I would tape the edges and then cut it to size and then glue it down. If there's a little bit of a taped edge, showing or any marks showing, there are methods and ways to cover up that little boo-boo. Okay, so there I've got now the top of the lid is covered. And again, I'm going to use some stuff out of my stash. There are so many things that you can use to trim around the outside edge. Now on this one, I used a combination of these this beaded trim, and then I put another trim over top. If you don't have beaded trim, you can certainly just put plain lace around the edge to cover up the metal. Now on this one, I guess I probably should have thought about putting this first instead of the other one first, but I can just push it away. So you can put lace trim around here. You can put a longer lace trim to go around the edge. And if you don't have the beads, you can always stitch some beads to dangle from here all the way around. It's whatever you have and whatever you like to finish off your project. You can take your fabric ruffles that you make and put them on at that point as well, and just create a little bit more fun interest all the way around your project. I'm sure it would look much nicer if it was in a color that matched, but you know, it's kind of different. And so you can glue that all the way around the edges as well, and trying to always catch the fabric or trim in some way from the one before if you can, because you are gluing to metal. So you want to make sure that somehow, you know, even if there's a little bit of glue sticking out on the edge here, and you just pat this into it so that it all kind of helps to hold it all together at once. So here again, I have the beaded trim somewhere on my table. Oh, this is pathetic. I've lost it. Here we go. And I had exactly, I think, enough to go around here. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue here to get it started. And then I just do a little bit on the trim at a time to go around the jar or around the lid. And again, I'm just pulling this up. Like I said, I probably should have put it on after I did the beaded trim. And I'm just tucking it underneath there a little bit. And doing a little bit at a time allows you plenty of time to catch it and glue it down as well. This is where you might want to have an extra couple of fingers. Now with beaded trim, they do have a continuous running stitch, and if it's beaded trim that is machine made, they don't knot in between each strand of bead. So if you cut it and you're not careful, you can easily unwind the next piece. and your beads will fall off. So what I like to do before I cut off any pieces that I don't need. Now in this case it's quite short, but I have no control of if they had, I have no control if they had closed off the thread beforehand, in this case I don't think they did. So I'm going to run a little bit of glue along the edge of those beads first. Now I had done it on the other side. That I had known because I could feel the glue when I put it down. But I just put a little bit extra so that the beads don't unravel if the thread gets pulled on. And then I can now push this piece back down, and you can see the multiple layers. Now, I don't really like this green satin showing through, so I will add another little piece of something on top. And I have this gold trim that I'm going to use. It's cute. And it will fit as well on top of the green, to cover up the green, because I didn't like that. So, but that's a personal choice. Again, you can decide how you want to decorate your jars. And I start off by putting a little bit first on the first piece that I'm going to put on the jar, or putting the glue in the spot where I'm going to put it. So this I'm going to slide down towards the bottom of the jar lid so that you see more of it, that it sticks out from underneath the other trim that I put down. And the same thing, flipping it over. I'm just decorating or gluing a little bit at a time. Until I get towards the other end of the jar. Lid. I keep saying jar. And this must be like watching me paint or something. Which I'll never subject you to, I don't think. And it's just one more time around, and then I'll be finished. Okay, so I'm going to, this ribbon doesn't unravel, so again, I'm just cutting what I need. And I think I'll do this in 2 sections because it's too long. I hope you can see everything that I'm doing. And now I can bring that down, the top trim down, and put this on the jar, and we are done. So I hope this is a fun little project for you to work on at home. And like I said, it's a great little gift to give to somebody. It's very decorative. It's glitzy. You can decorate it however you want. And then just add a few pins into it to gift it or to enhance it. This is great to hold brooches on top, and needles, your sewing needles. You could have a jar like this that's filled with all your bookbinding supplies. So you could have your cords that you use for bookbinding, and your bigger needles on the outside here for stitching your books together, your signatures. But it's just a great way to decorate your jars and have them sitting in your room. use them to inspire you. You can fill them up with all kinds of things so that you can see what you have and use what you have and collect more. This is a great way to collect new things and to show off new things in your room and have little collections of jars to all put together. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll just give you a quick rundown of next week. Okay, tomorrow is the big draw. Either I will do it tomorrow night or Tuesday morning, whatever. Tomorrow's the cutoff. So whenever I cut off and put up the video, that's it. You don't have any further chances of entering that draw. If you haven't already, you have to go to that video. And in order to go to that video, you can probably find it by clicking on my icon, my YouTube icon, and then it's featured on my main page of my YouTube channel. And so tomorrow or early Tuesday morning, we're making the draw for the winners for my 1,000 subscribers. I'm now at 1,100 and something, so I'm already thinking, wow, I got to start putting boxes together for the 1,500 draw. And yes, I will do one every 500 as we go along. So I don't care how often we do them. It's fun and it's inspiring, and it inspires me right back to do these videos and to have the followers. It just amazes me that so many people are interested in what I do, and so many people are interested if I go missing for a couple of weeks. But going back to the draw, yes, it will be happening, and I know I have enough to fill 3 boxes for sure. And it'll be based on the comments, of course, as to who wins. And if you have shared it in other venues and other social media platforms, and someone has come back and said, so-and-so sent me here to enter in this draw, if I should pull their name, you will win as well. And it will not be part of the 3 boxes. If you won, but if your friend won and they get one of the 3, but you get a 4th box. So I'm trying to make it fair so that everybody has the chance at least one of the 3. And then, you know, if you're on the side with people that you shared the video with and ask them to subscribe, then yeah, you deserve a box too, right? So thank you so much again for supporting the channel, and I will be doing that draw tomorrow. And then I'm not doing the rest of the videos for the week for this week, just the Thrifty Thursday on Thursday. I need one more week to get caught up and get some of this mess cleared up off my desk. So the draw will be tomorrow or Tuesday morning, and then on Thursday it'll be Thrifty Thursday, and then back to a Sunday's tutorial, and then hopefully by then I will be back into doing all the stuff that I was doing before. So again, I thank you so much for supporting the channel and for subscribing to the channel, and I wish you all good luck tomorrow, and I hope you enjoyed this video today. And if you did, leave Tom a message saying that you liked it, because he's the one who suggested I do this video today, and he loves these jars. He thinks they're amazing. So if he does, maybe your husband or partner will think the same thing too. So have yourself a very creative day, and I wish you a very creative week, and I look forward to seeing all of you very soon again. Bye for now.